Our next car setup is for Miami, and this is one of the newer circuits to the F1 calendar, but it's a street track with a bit of a difference. The design of the circuit is much like that of Jeddah, with fast and flowing sectors, long straights, and a few incredibly slow corners. And much like our Jeddah car setup, this combination of almost every type of track element means that our car setup will be a compromise. This track, however, is one that I really enjoy racing around, and this car setup creates a car which is stable enough to throw around with confidence and consistency. There is an extremely long straight and another really long curve at this Miami circuit, both of which require a low downforce setup. To be competitive during a race, you need to set your aero pretty low, otherwise you'll struggle down the long straights. However, this aero setup really is a balance because there are a few fast corners where your car can step out on you if you don't have enough downforce. In particular, turn 3 and turn 18, which are both flat right-handers, can cause the rear of your car to oversteer. To counteract this, I've gone for an aero setup with a slightly higher rear wing than front. Go with 16 at the front wing and 17 at the rear. This approach creates a setup with much lower aero than most time trial setups, but this really pays off during a race when overtaking is much easier. For the differential, I've lowered it down, which is pretty standard for most tracks in F1 23 so far. Go with 57 on your on-throttle diff and just 52 on your off-throttle diff. The lower off-throttle diff setup really helps the front of your car rotate into slower corners and counters the lower front wing aero setup. Our suspension geometry setup has been tailored to give a good mixture of tyre life and mechanical grip mid-corner. As per usual with our F1 23 car setups, I've gone far right on the camber with minus 2.7 at the front and minus 1 at the rear. Then for the toe, set your front toe to 0.03 and rear toe to 0.2. Higher rear toe helps keep the rear of your car in check through the faster corners that I mentioned earlier and gives you some much needed stability. Our suspension setup for Miami is relatively balanced. I've set the front suspension at the midway point at 22 and lowered the rear suspension to 8. Then I've set the front anti-roll bar to 10 and rear to just 1. Then you can set your ride height to 35 at the front and 38 at the rear. And this is about as low as you want to go, and you should really try to avoid riding up onto the exit curb after turn 5, otherwise you'll easily bottom out and completely be out of shape for the left-handers of turn 6 and 7. For the brake setup, I've maxed out the brake pressure at 100% and set the brake bias to 56%. You can move this a little more rearward if you struggle with locking up into the really slow section of track, but at 56% I found it just right. For our tyre setup, I've set the front pressures higher than the rears once again. Go 22.9 and 23 on your front tyre pressures and 20.4 and 20.5 on your rear pressures. The lower rear tyre pressures are designed to protect the rear tyres from wearing too fast, as this will be the limiting factor during a race. And that rounds out our Miami car setup for F1 23. This track is actually fairly tricky to create a car setup for due to the mixture of corner types and long straights, and the rear end of your car can really give you trouble with a few areas of the track. But this car setup provides a nice stable car which is ideal for longer distance races. Let me know if you like this car setup in the comments below. Also make sure you're subscribed to our channel to be one of the first to be notified when I drop a new F1 23 setup video. But for now guys, enjoy this setup and I'll see you on track.